Hello, I'm Peter Vaughan, and today, on this glorious sunny summer's day, I'm at the Caravan and Motorhome Club's Ferry Meadows site at Peterborough with this, the new CMC Hembill Tour CL, based on a long wheelbase Renault Trafic. Now, CMC, or Concept Multi-Car, to give them their full name, based down in Kent, and they've been converting campervans for 35 years. But more associated with Volkswagens than any other base vehicle, and of course associated very much with Reimo as the original importer of Reimo roofs and other Reimo components into the UK. This is their latest creation, and although it uses a lot of Reimo components, seats, pop top, etc., it is completely their own design and therefore part of their Hembill range. Hembill being a Scandinavian sort of translation of home car. Well, this is certainly the sort of size vehicle you could comfortably use as a car, and as the review goes on, we'll see how it works as you're home from home. The original Renault Trafic came out back in 1980, and it's been part of the campervan market ever since. The original appeal was really that it was front-wheel drive, one of the early front-wheel drive vans. But this generation came out in 2014, and in those early days we compared it with the Ford Transit Custom and the VW Transporter, and actually one of our reviewers was so keen on the Renault Trafic he went straight out and bought one and converted it into a camper. This actually isn't the very latest model year 23 Trafic, because, well, the Renault Trafic, even since 2014, has had rather a lot of facelifts, a bit like an aging Hollywood star, if you like. They keep tweaking the way it looks, and the latest one doesn't have this swoopy section here. This lower part of the bumper, the contrasting section, goes straight the way across, and the grille's slightly different, but basically it's still the same van. The engines have changed too. Back in 2014 they were 1.6 litres, now they're 2-litre engines, and this model starts off with a 130 bhp engine and 6-speed manual gearbox. If you go for that, the starting price for this Tour CL is £67,000. This one actually has the 170 bhp engine and the 6-speed dual clutch automatic transmission. A nice little detail to note too is that the bonnet is on these gas struts. Wouldn't expect that on a van, really. And then you've got these nice LED headlights as well, because this isn't a base builder's spec van. In actual fact, this one is a sport, which is a model designation that Renault doesn't use anymore. This, if you bought a brand new Tour CL, would be based on the Extra, or you could even upgrade still further to the Extra Sport. But broadly, this sport version of the van is comparable to the current Extra spec. Go for that top spec engine and gearbox, and the price rises to £73,040. And this one has a few further options, things like heated cab seats at £240, a roof bed £650. The metallic paint with the colour matched pop top is actually £1,680. But this is a well-equipped camper, and CMC reckon that you're saving £5 or £6 grand compared with an equivalent spec VW Transporter. Now, sizes, well, this van is 5.48 metres long, so a bit longer than the 5.3 metres of a long wheelbase T6.1. Overall height is just over 2 metres, 2.05 metres, and width, well, it's just a smidgen wider than a Transporter too, at 1.96 metres. But the key thing is it's much squarer sided, so as we'll see later on, that gives you a lot more space inside the vehicle for broadly the same size outside. I've also found these Trafics always quite an appealing vehicle to look at, especially here when you've got standard alloy wheels, you've got the optional metallic paint. These factory windows are all flush fitting tinted glass, and the opening sections are quite a decent size, and again they're flush. you see a lot of VWs with the inset windows, which can cause a bit of wind noise and never look as nice. This generation of Trafic has also been seen, of course, in the past as a Fiat Talento and a Vauxhall Vivaro, but those vans are now separate because they're part of the Stellantis group, and Stellantis and Renault are rivals, so they've gone their individual routes. But Renault is still built at Saint-Duville in France, and I think it still looks a modern-looking van. So total price of this van, if you ordered a brand new one on the extra spec, is $76,797. Maximum gross vehicle weight is 3,050 kilos, so well within car driving licence limits, and that still gives you a decent payload of at least 500 kilos, we're told. At the back, you've got a tailgate, so it looks nice and automotive. No van-style barn doors here. Rear wash wipe, of course, and a reversing camera. And the mains hookup is neatly hidden under the rear bumper. But perhaps the most important thing to note, especially if you're going to use this as your daily driver, is that it has twin sliding doors. So wherever you are, whichever side of the road you park, you can always get your passengers safely out onto the pavement. But the most important thing when you're camping is the pop top, and of course it's from the German renowned firm Reimo. Now, being a front lounge layout with a rear kitchen, you need the headroom at the back. But you've still got two straps to undo at the front, the usual Reimo style straps. Just put your hands up through these little recesses and pull the straps undone. So with all four straps undone, it just remains to give a bit of a push, and the gas struts do all the work for you. Then you just need to push the roof bed out of the way again on gas struts, and now at the back here you've got up to 2.3 metres of headroom. So if you've been stretched on the rack recently, you'll be okay in this van. Now, while we're talking about the roof, we should perhaps also talk about the roof bed. It is an option, so if you only need a two-berth van, you don't need to have it, but it does reduce headroom at the front of the vehicle. I can still stand between the seats, but I do need to bend down as I go further forward. Not a big issue once you get used to it, but you can't actually stand in the lounge area. But you're going to be sitting there most of the time anyway. And then the bed itself, well, when you want to use it, you simply pull it down and then clamber up via the kitchen unit. And what a bed! What a bed! 2.16 metres long by 1.29 metres. That's 7'1" by 4'2.5". Massive headroom too. And so to the lounge. And the front seats, well, it's just a little red marked lever. Cab seats spin round very easily, and there's plenty of room to move them back towards the dashboard as well. But actually, I was just as happy sitting in these rear seats. Head restraints are height adjustable. Got plenty of legroom if you're travelling back here. 3-point seat belts, of course. And, well, these are Reimo rear seats. A lot of campers with this type of layout use the RIB single rear seats. And I never find those comfortable because, well, they're long in the squab and just too high off the ground. Unless you've got legs like a giraffe, well, they're not really ideal. These seats, however, for a normal, average-sized person, seem ideal. And, well, you've got plenty of room. With 4 seats, 4 individual seats, it's a good-sized lounge. And, well, on a day like today, with the sliding doors open, couldn't really be much better in a van of this size. When it comes to dining, the table and leg store neatly at the end of the furniture, but they are pretty much impossible to extract without opening the tailgate, which seems a shame. Perhaps some just minor tweaks would allow them to be easier to get at when it's not weather like this. Not that there are any issues at all when it actually comes to using the table. Just swing out the bracket from this near side rear seat, drop in the table leg, and then the tabletop. Just align it and then screw the two together. And now got quite a sturdy, quite substantial table, perfect for two. Might struggle for four though, but yeah, good little table. Lighting is good too, with touch-operated spotlights set into the cab ceiling and these LED strips that rotate above the rear seats, so you don't have to have them glaring into your eyes. There's storage under these rear seats too. This one has got all my bedding in it, and then the near side seat is home to the two 12-litre fresh water carriers. Easy enough just to pull those out and go off to the tap when one runs out, and you can just swap the submersible pump from one to the other. You also got your jack in a bag in there, and there was room still for remains lead and maybe one or two other essential bits of kit in there as well. Now I'm getting hungry, and quick quiz for you. How do you make everybody on the campsite jealous of you? Well, one thing is to turn up in a brand spanking new campervan like this. Another is to get the smell of cooking bacon going. So, well, this kitchen, it may have typical campervan fittings, this combined Dometic 2-burner hob and sink, and then down here another Dometic fitting 39-litre compressor fridge. But what do you notice? Well, if this was a VW, it would be much more confined, because at roof level the VW is considerably narrower. And well, this does feel like a proper campervan kitchen. Nice wood worktops, everything is beautifully finished as you'd expect from CMC, everything top quality. If I wanted toast, well, I could have that because you've got a separate Dometic grill here, but there's good storage too. Here, decent sized cutlery drawer. Under that, another drawer. I've got the bread in there. And below that, quite a tall cupboard actually, with room for my pots and pans. It's tall enough for cereal packets, that sort of thing. The fridge, well, it's typical campervan sized fridge, no problem with that. The hob has push button ignition. And when you need to wash your fingers or do the washing up, there's hot water as well as cold at the sink, because this van has a 6-litre boiler. It's mounted behind the rear near side travel seat, and that is operated from either 12 volt or, if you're hooked up, mains as well. And then I've got all my plates, crockery and so on in the drawer under the fridge. And then in this back cupboard, you've got more storage alongside the proper steel-lined gas compartment for one Camping Gas 907 cylinder. There's plenty of worktop in this kitchen too, and that's before you deploy this little flap on the end, and there's a main socket conveniently close to that as well. And then you've got more worktop at a high level over on the other side. Well, that's ideal for toaster, coffee machine in my case, or whatever. And then really generous storage in this big locker over on the other side. Plenty of room for all your folded clothes, and again, somewhere for me to keep my coffee machine and my camera bags. And then over here, you've got all your controls for lights, etc. and your Eberspacher diesel-fired heating, which is included, is blown air heating included in the standard spec of the vehicle. Of course, the tall furniture on the offside isn't just about more kitchen storage, because you've got a loo compartment as well. Now, these bottom catches, you get the knack, you can actually open them with your foot rather than bending down. Then the door swings round so that you can get past. Clips onto the kitchen there, and there's room, plenty of room to use this cassette toilet. Yes, it's not a full bathroom or a full washroom facility. You'll have to wash your hands in the sink, but better than you'd get in a side kitchen layout, and it does add an extra USP to this sort of camper. There's a cupboard behind me too that you can use for storing your wash bag and towel and so on. But it might be nice to have a toilet roll holder and somewhere to hang a hand towel here. But I'm sure CMC would add those because they're a small enough business to make those little tweaks before you take delivery. Of course, that loo facility is most useful at night. Saves you traipsing over to the shower block. But at night, you've also got the choice of where to sleep, in the roof or down here. Down here, you've got twin single beds, and they couldn't be much easier to make. Squab cushions just flip over. There's a handle to release the backrests, which then just drop into place. And these cheese-shaped cushions flatten out the cab seats. Same on the other side. And then you have twin single beds, 1.88 metres long by 60 centimetres wide, or in old money, 6'2", but just under 2 foot. Blackout is by curtains on top and bottom rails, on the side windows, and a press stud curtain that goes right the way around the cab. So, time to go for a drive. But before we do, it's worth remembering that this isn't the latest spec Trafic. The 2023 redesign has a new dashboard, which looks a little bit different. But if you go for the extra specification, which CMC will use as standard, you do get things like the Easy Link navigation with an 8-inch touchscreen, DAB radio, Bluetooth, Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. You get a premium dashboard. It says 17-inch alloy wheels, colour-coded bumpers, active emergency braking system, driver attention alert and front fog lights. Now, if you up spec even further to the Extra Sport, which is now the top of the range Trafic, you get keyless entry, climate control, metallic paint, 17-inch alloy wheels with black inserts, rear parking camera, lane departure warning and traffic sign recognition. This one, of course, is a slightly earlier Sport model. Let's take it for a drive. Now, back in 2014, I went to the launch of this third generation Renault Trafic in Copenhagen, and everybody on that launch immediately commented on just how car-like the Trafic felt, how it was more like an MPV than driving a van. And I know we're 9 years on from that, but that impression still hasn't changed. The Trafic does feel more car-like than most of its rivals. It's got a nice absorbent ride, it's quiet. These 2-litre engines now, well, this 170 horsepower one seems to have plenty of performance. the automatic gearbox, but it's a twin clutch automatic gearbox like Volkswagen's DSG, and that's super smooth. What else can I tell you? Well, I like the driving position as well. Maybe the seat swivels, just raise it up a tiny bit, and it would be nice just to be that tiny bit lower, but it's a good car-like driving position. And you've got reach and rake adjustment on the steering column. There's plenty of spec, although you only get one armrest on the cab seats. And although I like this more integrated look for the sat-nav and radio and so on, the latest generation cab has a more iPad stuck on afterwards look, a bit like the Ford Transit Custom. So to me, that's a bit of a backward step, although I think it is a bigger screen now. But in no way do you feel that you're driving an inferior vehicle to the Transit Custom or even the Transporter. Yes, you're not going to convert real VW fans to a Renault, and well, it hasn't got the kudos, it hasn't got the badge, but you're saving money to have a Renault instead of a Transporter. That's the decision you have to make. And with campervan prices going up as they have been, well, maybe now is the time to think about a Renault. I should add too that not only is the Renault quiet, but on the way here I didn't have a single rattle from the living area. Now, I seem to have got one now, so I obviously haven't packed quite as well as I did on the way down. But the fact that the conversion is rattle-free, well, that's another bonus. So, final verdict time on this CMC Hembil Tour CL. Not a lot to dislike or criticise, is there? Yes, the table access could be better. They could add a few details in the toilet area. And the one thing I did find at night is that the cab seats could twist slightly under my feet because it's not a tight fit between the rear seat and the cab seat. But it didn't really worry me. There's lots to like though. The twin sliding doors, the comfortable rear seats, the generous rear kitchen, and the fact that in a small pop-top camper you have got a toilet area. Beds up and down are both good and flat as well. Yes, there are cheaper campervans, but they're generally cheaper for good reason. This one's type approved. CMC source their base vehicles direct from the chassis manufacturers, and that tells you quite a bit. So this is a premium campervan, and it comes with the price tag, but also the quality that goes with that. My own van came from CMC, and this just backs up my feeling that they still produce a very, very good campervan. This report, of course, was brought to you by MMM Magazine, still Britain's longest established and best-selling motorhome magazine.